Hello, welcome to the latest episode of Rugby League Back Chat. We have loads to talk about this week, as ever, and to do so with myself, we have off the interchange bench, a late replacement, we have League Express editor Martyn Sadler. Delighted to welcome Hull KR recruitment manager Danny Maguire, and back by popular demand, show me the money, the leading player agent Craig Harrison, and look how happy he is to be back, isn't he? Craig, you turned up late, so we might as well get the value out of you while you're here. Talk to me a little bit to start off with about the Toronto Wolfpack. They have had a tough start to the year, haven't they? And it wasn't too pretty for them on Thursday night.
Well, I've watched them live twice now. So I've watched the doubleheader and I watched them play Leeds last week. And I don't know what people expected, so I'm going to try and shoot straight from the hip. I didn't see anything else. I think they'll be gambling on getting everyone back to Toronto in a run of games and picking points up there. I didn't think, with how they put the team together and how quickly they've had to get Sonny Bill into that. Obviously, there's been some movement this week, Brian Noble leaving and all that, but I'm sure they've always said, get back to Toronto, get people over here, 6 or 8 games on track. If they pick up 4 or 5 games in that, they're back in the race. We've got Hull KR, Salford, and themselves at the moment. So I don't think, unless I'm mad, I don't think the coach would have said anything. But I said, look, Brian's all about performance. Have you heard it quite a few times? He's used the word, and he'll know better than anybody. He uses the word. He once told me they're going to win grand final from 5th, and I thought it was mad. And he said, I can feel it changing, I can feel the atmosphere. You know.
Yeah, it's all about momentum, isn't it? You know, you can, at the start of the season, you might not have any momentum, but it's not the start of the season that's really important, is it? You know, as the season unfolds, it becomes more important. And as you say, when they get back to Toronto, they'll be hoping they can build up momentum at that point.
The thing is, though, I take the point about the performances, but Danny hasn't played for 6 months, and I reckon some of that defending you'd have still been able to sky through, wouldn't you?
Don't know about that, Matt. Yeah, I think it was interesting listening to Mac after the game on Thursday, and he was talking about it being an ugly performance, and you have to experience these tremendous lows to appreciate the highs and the success. So, as I think Mac's probably saying to the Toronto boys, look, this is the lowest ebb we've ever had as a club, and you know, the only way we can go is up, and I agree with Craig. I think Toronto were always going to take a little bit of time to develop and mature as a team, and obviously become accustomed to Super League. So I think they're probably targeting mid-season to back end of the season to have a run of form and obviously pick up wins. And you know, they're doing it tough. There's no getting away from that. They've got a small squad. They've got injuries, and you know, they've been on the back of some disappointing results. The defence is scratchy to say the least, but they've got some great players, haven't they? They've got some good players in attack. Sonny Bill's starting to find his feet. Latelli's a great player, so I
think it's going to be quite important. They're going to have Chase Stanley back now, aren't they?
But he's not in the squad again this week.
No, but I mean, he presumably. I mean, obviously, I think he soon will be, and I think he will stiffen up their, you know, three-quarter line.
Let's get into it though, Craig. The salary cap issue with them. Have they realistically managed their cap as well as they should have done? Have they managed the cap anywhere near to enough level for them to give themselves a fighting chance of doing anything other than scrap at the bottom this year?
That's the answer. I love Brian Noble. I think they took a massive gamble on having one player at the age he's at to come in and probably represent the franchise as much as he had. They used it for publicity, which, by the way, thank you very much from a Rugby League fan for getting us on every page all around the world. I'm massive on that. I will not be no negatives on that. But the pressure's on Sonny Bill to deliver, and I think it's very hard for somebody that is, after rugby union, coming back into what he's done. I think he's probably thought that he's probably given his 10, 12 games before he can show his form. Yeah. And I'm sure he will. He's always delivered when he has. But you're talking a 34-year-old Sonny Bill. Yeah. You're talking travelling around the world. You're talking about a lot of plane journeys. I know he's used to that and he's done this, but I feel so he's the one with the pressure's on. I think the whole organisation have come, and the players are expecting Sonny Bill to be probably top. If you're on that kind of money, you're going to be top 3 player in comp. Yeah. I don't think he is, and I don't think it will take him. And we're hoping it happens because I'm a lover of rugby league. I hope Sonny Bill turns it on. I can't. When he come to Leeds in the first game, the atmosphere in the Leeds corporate was electric. The crowd, he warmed up, and everybody were like his ear. But it's a lot of pressure to put on one player and the full franchise. Yeah. Let me answer you this. If they went down this year, let's just say they finished bottom, I don't think Toronto will ever come back up. That's my call. I think very tough gig for them to come back up on the way they put the cap. They've got a lot of short-term players to keep them in that league. I think if you look at other clubs, they'd be in a lot of better position with a younger age on the cap to come back
But
up.
if they went down, wouldn't that give them the chance to freshen up the cap because they could rip up contracts effectively? It allows you, the relegation allows.
But would they do the same again? Are they going to? Are you ever going to?
But the assumption is that David Argyle will continue funding it. It's going to be if they did go down, it would be a massive disappointment for him personally, and the whole club relies on his philanthropy. To be honest, so we've got to hope that he's going to remain with that attitude, come what may, haven't we?
There's no chance. There's no, I'll state it here. For me, if they go down, the restraints on David, it doesn't matter what pocket you've got. And I've got wealthy. I know people have got serious money. If you're putting the amount of money he's done, and he has to start again, what you're saying, recap again.
Absolutely.
You've no chance. You're asking even a man of that magnitude to do things that are great. And I'll speak again openly, I don't think we've helped him as a game. I think we could have done loads more. And I feel bad personally that we haven't done enough to help him do that. That's my personal view.
Danny, they've recruited, just to get into the recruitment a bit, they've recruited a lot on the fly, haven't they? They've recruited mid-season, basically players have come up they felt could strengthen them, they've signed them. Is that a long-term way of recruiting? Can you do that successfully while managing, the amount of money you're spending on players?
I don't think so. I think recruitment's all about a long-term vision. I really do. And obviously been involved at Rovers now and KI. For us, I think our strength's going to be we've just got our academy back and our scholarship back. And you've got.
I always thought it was really strange that you had that dual academy in Hull. I
just don't think that worked. I think the intentions were good, and I think financial constraints, financial reasons they did it, and probably not as many young players playing in Hull. But we need to produce our own players. We need to have a steady flow of young players coming into the first team from the scholarship, from the academy, and then your recruitment strategies can be different. You can sign some top end Australian players that are going to come in for maybe a couple of years. But it's got to be, we've done it this year at KR. At the back end of the year, we were in a relegation battle, no planning regarding recruitment, so we had to make our signings at the back end of the season. We decided to invest in some younger players. We signed the boys from Bradford. We invested in Mikey Lewis. We got a young player called Anasu from Bradford, and it's all about the future. But in sport, it's all about the here and now, innit? And so you just got to get that balance. You just got to get the balance of planning for the future, but not neglecting the here and now.
Fair to say then that your recruitment was based on what you may be able to achieve in 3 years' time.
Exactly. Maybe. Yeah, and we got John Bastian in, who was the best in the business regarding youth development, and we sat down, myself, John, Neil Hudgell, and we wanted to plan for the future. We want to give Hull KR the best opportunity to be one of the top teams in, and we felt that was by producing our own players and getting some young, hungry, talented players within the squad, and adding some quality at times. This year we've missed, obviously Mossy got injured, Weller's been injured, Adam Quinlan's injured, Mitch Garbutt's injured, so we've probably overexposed some of our younger players this year, but that's just been through injury, I suppose.
But the problem with planning for the future 3 years ahead, which is absolutely what you should be doing, but you've got this relegation spectre, haven't you, that affects all the clubs who, other than a few at the top. And you've got to ultimately ask whether promotion and relegation on an annual basis like we've got is good for the game. Because we had licensing, and I don't think that worked particularly well. I don't think it was well administered, if I'm really honest about it. But the problem is we've got this promotion relegation system that's potentially going to do a lot of damage to the game. If Toronto go down, all those expansion plans into North America look to be kiboshed. Well, I think you've got to look at a longer term thing. It's interesting, Danny was just talking about a 3-year planning scenario at his club. To start with, I think a club that gets promoted into Super League should have 3 years where it's protected from relegation. Toronto haven't, but when Catalans came in 2006, they did have a 3-year protection against relegation. Remember, I think it was at Castleford or Widnes, or both went down one particular year and they stayed up, even though they were bottom in that first year. You've got to try and reconcile the sort of excitement and thrills and spills of promotion relegation against longer term objectives for developing the sport, because in the 1970s and 80s we moved back to 2 divisions in 1973-74, and I'm old enough to remember it. And it killed a lot of clubs. Promotion and relegation in those days killed lots of clubs. Lots of housing and industrial estates in the north of England nowadays that used to be rugby league grounds. But, you know, clubs at the time mortgaged themselves to try and stop being relegated or get promotion, and it didn't work.
Craig, here's one for you. It's probably a question for Danny as well. A lot of your players went to Hull KR this year. Why was that? Why did so many players go? I mean, you've got a great relationship with Danny. Was that part of it? What was the reason
not just Danny. With John, I met Neil and I trusted him. He came to my house and he said, "What do you think?" And I said certain things which I'm known for saying the truth. So I said, "I think you've got to lower your age of your cap. You've got to think longer term." A lot of the things that were talked about at my house was Neil's vision were great on it. He said, "Look, you know, that sounds complete sense to me. If you've got an average cap age of 31, you're wrong." And I thought Hull KR lost 3 or 4 players at the end of last year who actually retired. Yeah. They didn't go to another club, they retired. So that tells you retention's not that good if they're retiring after they finish for yourselves. Listen, I like people I trust because my players are going to places I trust. Do I trust Danny probably more than most? Yeah. Do I trust John Bastien more than most? Yeah. Do I think Tony Smith puts the player first? Yeah. So it's easy for me and the vision they had. The Jez Litton, the Dean Hadleys who went last year, the Cal, they were lovely for him because they needed players in. They didn't have enough. I think you were down to 16 men. So Danny said, "Look, we need players in." You know, they said we need players in now. We got them over the line. And then the vision. For me, it's all about, I own my own club at Doncaster and people said, you can't get young players. I had 9 players under 21-year-old. That was the only reason I did it. Because I thought, why would you keep top-ending stuff? Because it's short term. If you get a year out of somebody, well, that's not good for fans.
Is it usual, because you've sent a lot of players to Castleford over the years.
Love them.
Is it usual for agents to have particular relationships with certain clubs and send certain players to certain clubs?
100%. Anybody says any different, they're talking out of the bum. No, there's no doubt. I prefer, as in life, you deal in business, there's certain people you warm to, there's some people don't. I suppose I might be in a quiet taste. I do say it as it is, which some people I think are sly, you wouldn't dare put them behind your back. I certainly won't be one for that. I always had you
for being sitting on the fence.
No, it's an acquired taste and we've acquired it, haven't we?
So for me, mine's all about a lot of them's how they treat the lads. If you know about my business and what I do, I'm definitely a lot different to most other agents. It's my passion, it's my life, they're my friends. He recently did a 10-year thing for me on showing me being 10 year. And we were sat in the restaurant, they put this video up. It's the first time I've been humbled in a lot of years. What they think here, the lads have done the videos saying what they think here and what journey they've been on with you. Remember these, I've had these now 12, 13, they've all been 10-year players. The young, I've got loads of, they'll be personal friends. So in the answer to you, would I Powley improved every single player I sent. I called Powley Mr. 25 grand. They put 25 grand value on every player he had. Not one of my players have ever called being at Cass. Luke Gale recently said to me, "Wow, what a journey." Now his end of his journey was going to, I think I said it on one of your programmes, it was going to end up, I thought, at Leeds. It were always in the background. But what a time he had at Cass, and what a player they made him, and what a play, what he gave back to him. That's what it's all about.
Danny, from a club's perspective, is it usual as well to work with certain agents more than most? Because obviously, I can't remember exactly how many you took from Craig. 12?
No, I think again, Craig touched on it. You have relationships with people. You understand people. But for me, as involved in recruitment, he's my pal. But I speak to other people as well. Speak to other agents. I went to Australia at the end of last year to pick up contacts in Australia, and I think it'd be silly to narrow your vision just down one avenue. If that makes sense. And you got to keep your options open in recruitment. You've got to be at the heartbeat of everything. You've got to know what's going on, and that's something I need to learn as well. I need to make sure that if there's any potentials out there that we're on it and we're in the mix. And recruitment's interesting. It's tough. It's not as easy as I thought it were going to be. There's a lot of stuff going on out there, but it's interesting. It keeps on your toes.
A good one just on the back of that is, do not hesitate to think that I won't fall out with him over the player. I wouldn't. He knows what I'm like, and I know. Daryl Powell, when we first mentioned Luke Gale going, and you do, this happens. You're really good friends with somebody, and then suddenly you're on a cup of tea, say, by the way, he's going, or this could happen. Yeah. You're going to fall out. You know, that's what happens. But you're big enough as people and trust each other to get over that. We've done it. I've done it. You know, some of my best friends in the game, I've had to make the phone call and say, listen, we're not happy. Yeah. That offer you've given us is not good enough. And by the way, we're gone. That's not going to.
Well, you've had a few times with Cass, haven't you, where you've been somewhere apart on.
Alex Mellor last year, Richard Thule's I'm big friends with Rich. Yeah. And we kept doing the Alex Mellor one, and I kept saying, he's going. Because I didn't think it was the right offer at the time. And I love Rich. I really have, you know. But I didn't hesitate. I didn't blink. I said, he's gone. That's it. Thank you very much.
But that's bound to happen, though, isn't it? Because people's evaluation of players differs from individual to individual. You know,
100%.
Around this table, we'd think differently about different players. So, you know, you're bound to, and everybody must realise that you're battling for that guy, all the guys you represent, and, you know, in a negotiation, it's one-on-one, you know.
Well, Craig, hang on. We have to have a break.
Sorry.
Pick up on that afterwards. After the break, we will get back into recruitment, plus Ottawa and New York, and much, much more. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Rugby League Backchat. Don't forget, you can get involved in this discussion too on Twitter at RL Backchat, and any comments you want to make about what any of the guys are saying, we'll send it back to them too. Maybe not to Craig, he might get offended. Craig, just on what we were saying, Martyn had asked you, fire away, what were you going to say?
I can remember when I first went into the agents game and some agent very kindly said, unless you're banned from at least 3 grounds a year, I don't think you're doing your job.
I think it's the same with media as well.
I certainly haven't been banned, but I've certainly been where I know I'm not, you ring up for the ticket, or you might, I usually pay, you remember that, but you certainly know dinner on for you when you get there. It's, And it is funny because, like I said, even the coaches and some of the CEOs are my personal friends. Yeah. And you've still got a duty of care, and the lads will push that as well. The lads like to see you fight in the corner. Yeah. When I've just had one, Danny's laughing. I'm not going to mention. I've just had a CEO on now, and we've got to play a negotiation. And his opinion of the negotiation is on the same lines as me. To make it happen, you've all got to tick them boxes, and everyone think they've got something out of the deal, and that's a hard thing to do because you're balancing egos, you're balancing a lot of things.
The question I was going to ask to you two, you've touched on it really. You are friends. There's no doubt about that. How hard is it for you as an agent, if Danny wants a player, not to try and push the player to that place?
I just wouldn't give a monkeys. Whether I'm just being blatant because people have. I've actually had another club said to me, might have been Powley winding me up saying, "We are all okay, are we?" And he put it on me straight away, and I was like, wow, because I'd always had a lot of players in that cap, and I started laughing and said, well, I still did you Dan Smith and Chris Clarkson last year. Plus my relationship at Cass is a little bit different because I've had to get used to John Wells coming in, and John's coming and doing all the players. So now I used to just go and sit down with Errol and the CEO, Steve Gill, and then Mark, he'd have a laugh. John's come in and I had really respect. It took me a bit with John. Me and John clashed that first 3 months. It was quite feisty, but we found a level playing field. I am always right. No.
Do you ever get the problem? Do you ever get the problem? Where...
I tell you what, Mark, I just asked Danny, because we're going to ask Danny the same question.
Yeah, go on.
How hard is it for you? Say you've got a player somewhere, Australia or another agent, and Craig's got a player, same position. How hard is it from your point to just do business, or do you not really?
It's most selfish, but you're joking. He dropped me like
it's what's best for the team and the club. It's got to be. That's the thing for my opinion on recruitment is you've got to do your due diligence. You've got to do your homework, injury reports, find out about the person. That was one of the big things I picked up in Australia is the amount of homework they do on the recruits. And especially, I went to visit an AFL team, and their recruitment's on a different level. They leave no box unticked, and I think in rugby league sometimes we just go on one person's opinion and just decide to sign somebody because he said he's a good player. So, just to answer your question, if me and Craig disagree about players all the time. He rates somebody, and I'm not so sure. And I think that's the beauty of having your own opinion and seeing things differently. And I'm not going to lie, Craig's got a good eye for a player, and 9 times out of 10. I don't want to say this because his head's already big enough, but he gets it right most times. But there's times he's put players forward, and I don't think they're the right fit. And we just move on. It's business. It's business is going on. Outside this building now, people are making deals and negotiating offers and saying, "Oh well, somebody's offering this player a bit better, or these bricks a bit cheaper," and it just goes on. And I don't see why people take it to heart. It's just. It's part of the game. It's, you're trying to do your best for your club.
You're just doing a deal. I mean, one thing, the question I was going to ask Craig was, what happens when you've got a player who overestimates his own ability and value?
Worst nightmare it will.
Because, I might come to you, Craig, say, I want you to represent me and get me a contract with Hull KR for 120 grand.
That'd be true.
And you say, my God, you're only worth 40 or whatever, 50, that sort of thing. That must be a problem for you sometimes.
It happens, but it's not a problem because if the players were here to say, they'd say I tell them their valuation very quick.
Right.
So I have no hesitation in saying, no, you're not worth that. And the problems you get is a younger player with the parents, and it's much the pressure of, the one I don't like is, I know you've had some great kids, but, and I'm thinking, don't say what I think you're going to say. But my kids, and I'm like, don't say it, please don't say it, because I'll walk out if you say it. And sometimes you get it and you're like, no, because that's a bad pressure on a young man anyway.
Yeah.
So, and certainly, let me just educate you, which I've said on many occasions, your player is not in the same league. Don't compare some of them to these.
Yeah.
Have the respect to make sure they've done something before you start comparing something to Danny Maguire or Luke Gale or, do you know what I mean? Then he laughs. I've got one where, best ever. They call me best ever. So if I say a player, I say, you're not saying out like this. And these will laugh, these will cry with laughter and go, here we go, he's got another one. But he's right when he said, Danny said a thing there, which I'm passionately involved in the development of players. I go out and scout. I've got my own. We do our own analysis on players. We take it really serious. So if I do put somebody forward, I really hope that I've done the right thing. There's not many times, Martyn, in my life, and I can say in the years, where I've put somebody in and I hadn't absolutely watched everything and scared that he doesn't succeed, because I've taken that very personal. If a coach once said to me, "Hey, we're Brian Mack," he said, "You can't get them all right." Tops called me, he said, "You can't get them all right." I said, "But I try. I try to get you." I took Luke Gale and Bish to him at 19-year-old in London. I got another player, I'm not mentioning him, I got one probably half wrong. And I took that very personally.
What happens when you get a player who gets into trouble, either
plenty of them.
Social context or drugs context or that alcohol, whatever it might be? How do you handle those?
I'm the first phone call.
Right.
So I'll do a bang, bang, bang. I'm not saying you're the fixer, but you probably are as quick because they'll trust you to do the right thing. I got one recently, and they said, "What?" And I went, "Calm down. You calm down. Let's handle it from here. You get your Sonata way," and that was it. I tried to do the right thing then.
Yeah.
Your job's then to maybe talk to the club, talk to whoever is involved, see what the story is, and give an honest opinion straight away to your player. You shouldn't have done that. You're totally out of order. That's just normal for me. That's the normal part.
I can vouch for you for that, because I remember giving you a call about one of your players. And I won't name who, and you were straight on, and that were it. I didn't hear from you.
100%. I went straight on. We'll sort this. We'll sort that. You need to. That's part of what I feel my job is anyway.
Danny, just going to ask you. You mentioned about recruitment and research and so on and so forth. One thing about Hull KR that seems evident to me is that for 4 or 5 years now, injuries. I know that people say it's bad luck, but at some point does a club, and it's not just Hull KR, because I've been critical of Wakefield for this in the past as well, do you have to look at why the injuries are happening every year, as many as they are, or is it purely just bad luck?
I think I'm contemplating getting a witch doctor down to Craven Park to lift the curse. I really am. Good question. If it was muscular, calf, hamstring injuries, quad injuries, back injuries, you'd have a look at your fitness regime, what you were doing, your physios. We've got a great team at KR. A lot of it is just is unlucky. We've got I think we've had 6 syndesmosis injuries, which is basically where the lads are planted in a tackle and their ankle basically stays in the ground. So there's, you know, there's no planning for that. You know, there's no rehab. There's nothing you can do to protect that from happening. We're playing a contact physical game where at some point 300 kilo blokes are on top of you, and at some point, you know, knees and ankles give way. And I understand what you're saying. You know, we are littered. Since I were at KR, it was ridiculous. You know, constant, and not just any players, important players, senior players. And this year just shows you with the players that we've missed at the start of the season.
Quick one on that one. I in the midst of one of the injury things they had, and I think Tony had gone out and they said, "Oh, we've lost this," and I made a phone call to him and I said, I don't know if he knew, he felt my voice was different, and I'm going, "Are you doing a bit of training in that?" And he went, "No, don't even start. Do not even start." So I was going to throw it into Neil and them and say, "You need to get the boots back on."
Danny,
for one last night.
Danny, I'm going to be honest with you, and Martin will vouch for me. The first podcast we did of the year, we said, "What's your bold prediction for the year?" And I said you'd come out of retirement.
No chance, mate.
No chance.
If you'd have seen that friendly
I don't own any boots now, so that's my excuse not to play.
The half break you made on that friendly, I didn't like the legs had gone. They're gone.
on the injury front then, again, it's maybe a tough question, a harsh question. Do you look at the players you're recruiting if they're just simply not, if there's too many that aren't durable enough?
I think a category on, you know, a spreadsheet that I'm doing is durability. Right. Definitely. It's 100%. You know, you need players that are going to be available for selection. You know, everyone's going to get injured because of the game we're playing, the vigours that you put in your body through. But I reckon durability is huge. So X amount of games. If somebody's played 4 or 5 years at Super League, I reckon you'd have to look at a percentage of games played, 80% minimum, I'd say, to tick that box. To then say, to take it to my CEO, my chairman, and say, this player, I reckon durability is huge now. Yeah. Because you need your important players on the pitch, and unfortunately for us this year, we've not had that.
Do you think the game almost makes too many demands on players nowadays? That you know, players generally are too susceptible to injury because of the nature of the game. Is it just too much weight colliding? You know, we always talk about tackles being car crashes. Are we actually subjecting players now to too much of that?
I've got a theory, Dan. I have a theory that if you played rugby, I played football in the day, and I said I never saw a scan, never saw, all my friends, we never saw. The research also on it now is these lads can have something on the Sunday. I think they lost 3 players on the weekend.
4.
I think 4 players. I think they'll all have their prognosis very quickly within 48 hours, everything.
Within 24 hours.
Can you imagine when I first started watching rugby, you used to watch them. What did you have at Leeds? There were a player, and I can remember saying he'd tape his knee from Australia. His nickname would tape or something, but he'd literally just put every ligament together, pop his thing back in, and he'd play. And they got a season out of him. I can remember Barry McInnes' book saying he just played every game injured. That was what he expected to do when he did it. Now it's the things to now is that they can pick anything up.
Important, nice way to move this on. Some of the tackles in that game that you had with Wigan, I know that Oliver Partington's he's been referred to a tribunal, and Ben Flower got done for the dangerous contact. There hasn't been many so far this season, but they did look nasty. How important is it we stamp these tackles out because they're ugly?
I think that's the key to it. And we were chatting before, myself and Craig, about it, and teams practice 2 men holding the tackler up and the 3rd man coming in aggressive, should be above the knees, you know, to win the floor and turn the player on his back. I know Ben, and obviously he's done a few things throughout his career where you'd probably disagree with this statement that I'm going to say, but he's actually a really nice fella, and I can't imagine, you know, as a rugby player, you never want to go out there and injure anybody. You want to go out there and hurt somebody, you know, fairly. Yeah. But for me, I don't think anyone goes on the field thinking I'm going to break this guy's ankle or break this guy's, I'm going to do his knee or anything like that. I'd be very, very disappointed if anybody was coaching that technique.
Does the punishment need to be severe though? Because I mean, Ben Flower's got 2 games, hasn't he?
I mean, to be fair, I think my opinion is it needs to be more than that, and that's not just because of the guy that's carried the act out and his previous history, that type of stuff. But I think if we're gonna have to lay a standard straight away. So if anybody else is doing this, it's a 6-game ban, so you know straight away, and everyone else then is a little bit more hesitant in that kind of tackle. And you know, Stozza's probably going to be out for potentially 3 months there. You know, we feel we feel that for the next 3 months now.
There is an argument, isn't there, to say that if you injure a player like that by doing something that's illegal, you ought to be out for at least as long as the player you injure. You know, which
I mean, it's hard to police that, innit? I think
it is. But
it's a good call, and I kind of agree with it, but I think it'd be really hard to police that.
Yeah.
I'm quite simple, mate. Listen, I'd rather see someone go toe to toe and let the hands go than do that. For me, it's the cheapest form of rugby, in my opinion. It's the toughest game in the world, in my opinion. But I'd rather see two big blokes let them go and no harm at all, and they give this ends a shake, and that's what we've been brought. Doing that. That for me is the. And I said this to somebody a couple of days ago. I'd just say to my players, anybody who does that and you see it, punch him. And that'll highlight it, because don't do it again. If you highlight I seen it happen in an academy game 3 years ago, and it took me, literally, it upset me. I was watching it happen, and I watched the turn in the tackle. So you're turning him, and they're holding him up to keep him up for the third man to come in so they can dominate the floor. That's so, that's so dangerous. Young lads, 18-year-old. So for me, it needs to be stamped out immediately, and listen, Wigan got some bad press, or Wigan again. That's a load of rubbish. They maybe practice the technique better than most. That's probably what they do. But there's a lot of clubs doing that. That's happened with a lot. And Danny's right, and you said it, individuals have done this for. The rule needs to come from the top. If you go below the knees and you come in to main, or you're coming in which can cause an injury, gone.
Even if it's accidental, even if it's not deliberate, you've got to deter it, haven't you? You know?
And I don't think anyone would try and accuse Flower or Patterson, well, maybe some, but not. Anyone who knows the game wouldn't accuse them of doing that intentionally. It was just.
I think they're both. I said to Danny and Carl, I said, "You imagine how they're feeling?" I said, "I reckon most rugby players I know feel terrible when they've injured another player. There's a massive, apart from when they're all shouting at you at Wigan when you did your ACL.
I forgot about that. That was only because you tried to trip someone up, wasn't it? We got a minute before I have to wrap up this part of the show. I'm sorry, I ask you this all the time. You must be sick of me ringing you now. Where are we at with recruitment?
It's ongoing. It's definitely ongoing, and it's probably a bit more ongoing this week with obviously injuries. We're pretty close to getting somebody in a middle. Not done yet, so obviously can't give you a scoop. And potentially maybe looking at some short-term replacements, some loans. But then again, it's with the reserves, and teams are really reluctant to send players on loan now. They want to keep the players, they want to look after themselves, and that's fair enough as a club. If you're in that position, you probably would do the same. So it's tough, but we are looking to strengthen. I've already started looking and planning for 2021, but like I said before, it's all about the here and now, innit, at this moment. So we just need to keep some competition for places and obviously get some more experienced players back out on the field.
Well, I'll be peppering you with phone calls for the rest of the week then. Coming up after this short break, we're going to talk about Ottawa and New York after their entries to the league were confirmed. We'll be right back. Don't forget, Backchat is available on FreeSports throughout the season on all of these platforms. And you can also catch up via the FreeSports player by registering for absolutely free. Final part of this week's Rugby League Backchat. We are going to talk about Ottawa and New York. Craig, you just wanted to make a point on reserve grade on the back of what we're saying about recruitment. Fire away.
Yeah, I'd like to open it up as well, by the way, just to say, how have we found it? I like the fact is Danny mentioned bringing players in. One thing they did last week, they brought Ethan Ryan in. Other clubs are starting to look at the reserves and go, you know what? I like what he's doing. And that's what I dreamed the reserve were for, to help the first team coach and his staff identify players who were playing against serious Super League players and go, you know, I think there were a Leeds Wigan game this week at Stanley, which somebody reported, fantastic game. I think there were about 6 regular Super League players playing on each side. The youngsters got a chance to look at the way they gauged against that. But I think Danny said 12th the game. I'm hoping Danny's been actually actively involved in organising, getting the teams together. And I've never seen him as stressed in my life.
Here's the thing though, Danny, let me ask you this, because it still seems to me that dual reg is being used a lot as well alongside it. Why? I mean, Matty G went to Dewsbury for a game, didn't he? Why would he go to dual reg and not reserve grade?
Great question. I suppose to play he probably went to play in a tougher game. Right. Obviously, we're still saying that the Championship is a better standard than the reserves, and I agree with Craig. The reserves should be as good, if not better. Yeah. You know, we played Newcastle at the weekend, and I think we had 3 first teamers playing, and the rest were trialists that we've had to source ourselves. That's been really tough. So we've got basically some lads that was with the academy that have drifted away from the game, and we're trying to get them back involved, which is good. I don't mind doing that. We've got dual reg players from Donny. Yeah. I'm linking with Dewsbury, so it's interesting. It's tough, and I'm learning loads doing that. But I just think for me the reserves, you know, I know we're littered with injuries, so it's been really hard to. Our first team, you know, has been basically taken up, and rightly so. But I've heard a few stories about the reserves. You know, most of the teams are doing it tough, and I don't think the quality of the games have been right great, if I'm honest. And the idea behind it for me was we were going to get a real strong competition. We were going to get 6 or 7 first teamers going against each other with
top academy.
I think you've got to give it time to settle in, though, Danny, haven't you? But one question I was going to ask, and I've not been monitoring it that closely. But have any games been postponed yet because a team couldn't raise a team? Yeah,
we had a game postponed only for the pitch. The pitch was waterlogged.
Right.
But it's been really hard to get players training. We've got players working. I feel really sorry for our coach, Kev Deaton. He's a great coach. He's involved with the England unis. He's getting no coaching time with his players because, you know, some lads are working, and it's really tough. It's really
but it's a real test of him to deal with that situation.
And it's almost like, you know, the lads went up on the bus to Newcastle. It was almost like back playing amateur, and a trip up to Cumbria back in the old days, and it was it's really enjoyable actually. I'm really enjoying being around it. It's a different feel. There's less pressure, but I'm not sure if it's sustainable. I think financially, you know, not many people are watching the games, if I'm honest. And the cost to put the game on, open a stadium, officials, security, food, we're, you know, paying players for what we're actually getting out of it. I'm not sure if it's sustainable.
Danny, the other point, that's a concern for me.
You just put favour God in me.
I'm just being honest, you know. I want it to work. I really want it to work, but and I'm enjoying being part of it.
How do we change it?
I honestly don't know. I think the clubs. I think a portion of the salary cap should be set aside.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So
once you do that, they'll sort it.
The clubs are getting. I don't know what exactly they're getting now. Nearly up to 1.9, whatever the money is. A portion of that, 100 grand, should be put aside and said that has to be committed to the reserve grade.
And one of the other things I'd like to see is the reserved matches all being played at the same time at a certain point during the week, maybe Saturday at 3 o'clock or whatever other suitable time people might think is right. Because it's a habitual thing, isn't it? You know, when you say people are not watching, well, they won't do if they're not sure when the games are being played.
Agreed.
There were a massive crowd at the Leeds Wigan this week. There was a big crowd, and I like this week, if you look round the grounds, I'm straight onto all the reserves to see how my lads have done. And I love it.
But the clubs need to promote those games a bit more effectively.
This is what I was going to say to you. They won't be, and if the funding's in hand and they say, if you market the game, if you put proportion of it development of the player, if you do, and we're not going to give you this unless you do, trust me, they'll do it. The best marketing exercise I've ever seen, because it'll all make sense very quickly. And Danny wouldn't, and people wouldn't be asked to be involved in it at the last minute and say, "No, have you got this? Have you got that?"
And how about putting some reserve games on the Hour League app? You know, that'd be another.
Just to wrap this up, because we've other stuff to talk about, and it comes back to 2 things you said. You mentioned the dual reg. If there were more first team players playing at reserve grade level, wouldn't it entice fans to go to games more because they're going to see first team players, but also, wouldn't it naturally then just bring the quality of the games up, because that's a concern as well?
Yeah, totally agree. I think that was the idea of the reserves. Is that, that's why everybody wanted it to be brought back, because there was an element of players, a portion of players not getting any games. We had some first team boys last year that probably weren't good enough to go play for Featherstone or Halifax, and the reserve grade would have been perfect for their development at the time, but they were sort of stuck in limbo. But I'm not sure there's enough quality players playing the game to have a Super League, to have a really strong reserve grade and a Champ 1 and 2. Yeah. I'm just not sure there's enough players out there to sort of do that. We are sort of scrapping and scraping around to sort of get a team at Rovers for our reserves, and I don't think was how it was supposed to be, how it was envisaged by everybody when it was first set up again.
Let's hope that it improves in the future, gents. We're going to have to move on. I need to get on to Ottawa and New York. Martyn, Ottawa announced 2021, New York announced 2022. What's your general thoughts on this?
Well, we've got to wait and see how it turns out, because we know that Ottawa are coming in. They've got a slightly different model, haven't they, to Toronto? And when the real test for them, I think, is to see whether we can get any young Canadian guys playing the game with them, because ultimately, if you're going to expand into a country like Canada, you've got to get young Canadians wanting to play rugby league. Ultimately, we've got to get Canadians coming to you, Craig, and asking you to represent them and to find a way into playing professionally. So I hope that's going to happen. I'm not sure we've got enough details yet of how Ottawa are going to operate to really be able to make a firm judgment. But hopefully they've got backing of smart people over there. But they do need some strong rugby league people as well, advising them on how to, come into League One and how to compete there.
Probably got a table here of people of pro expansion. I think that's fair to say. But Craig, from the outside looking in, what's Rugby League's long-term strategic vision for expansion?
Well, Toronto were the flag bearer, so we need Toronto to stay in. In my opinion, Martyn said a great comment about maybe letting a club come in and say, and the other clubs won't never vote it, but in a real Disney World sort of thing, and we'd love to say you've got 3 years to develop your club. You're not going to get relegated. The other clubs will have to accept that. That's the way it is. We don't need Toronto not to be a sex, trust me. Because that Ottawa will be like looking at that, and if they go there and then somebody pulls out, and then trust me, you'll be on shaky ground again. Yeah. I know the model's different. I know they all said the right things. Trust me, once they get in there and they want success, your brain comes off anyway. Well, we're going to develop 25 Canadian lads. No, you're not, because you'll get beat 100-0, 100-0, 100-0, 100-0. Oh yes, but in 3 years' time, you won't be there in 3 years' time.
This is the point I was going to make, and Valencia have said this, which is another one. They're going to bring homegrown players in. It's going to be Canadians, it's going to be Spanish players with Valencia, but then they're also saying they think they can be competitive at League
They
One.
underestimate how difficult it is to play rugby league, don't
Danny,
they?
you know the player pool. It's just unrealistic to think that they're going to be able to do that, isn't it?
I think Craig nailed it on the head there. You've got good intentions. The intentions are really good of producing Canadian, Spanish players, but there's some tough, rugged players knocking about in the Champ and Champ 1 that are experienced, and you're trying to develop and grow the game, and you could be on the end of some tough results, and it takes somebody with real guts and determination at the top of the ladder to be able to stick with it through the process. We talk about the process all the time, about your end goal and how, and we spoke about it with Toronto, how they're experiencing some tough moments at the minute. But then obviously as you climb and as you improve, you appreciate what you're going through, and you enjoy the good moments a little bit more. So I agree with Martyn. I'm on the fence regarding Ottawa, and I am pro expansion, like you said. I don't mind us trying things and seeing if things out there work for the growth of the game. But I don't want that at the expense of your Featherstones, your Halifaxes, where we've been strong in the past.
I was going to say, Martyn, Toronto have come in. You've been to Toronto and you said it was brilliant.
I've loved it.
What do we need from Ottawa in the first instance? Forget New York, because they're coming in a few years. What do we need as a sport, Ottawa, to do so that people will turn around and go, yes, this is working, this is a success for Rugby League?
Well, I think they've just got to be broadly competitive right from the start, haven't they? Which I think they...
Does it need to be more than just being competitive, though? Just because that effectively just makes them another team.
It's very difficult to say. Certainly that would be the case if they were coming into Super League straight away.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't afford them to come into Super League and not be successful. But the good thing about coming up through the ranks, through League One, is that, you know, all eyes won't be upon them during that first season.
Do we need them to
They've got a bit of space to be able to make mistakes.
Do we need them to develop Canadian players?
Oh, I think so in the long run, yes. And
how long do we give these clubs? No one knows the answer to this. How long do we give Toronto?
Well, unless you protect them, they're not going to survive. Somebody has got to have the guts to say, if it were me, I'd say no problem. They are going to be protected.
Yeah.
It's for the good of the game. Simple as. Not even a negotiation. Yes, I don't want to lose the Featherstones and the thing. Of course I don't. That's by the by. But we've got to grow the game in other areas. It's not growing. Yeah. Newcastle, for me, I've said this, and I think I said it last time. Newcastle, for me, when you go down and you see what's happening, I wouldn't hesitate to get them up as quick as any way I can.
No.
We need Newcastle. We need York. York got the new. We need new places. We cannot. The game has proven over the years you cannot stick to the old
just be St Helens, Wigan, and Leeds.
No chance. You know, absolute no chance. The big cities. I met Melbourne recently. I'm not saying, but I met Melbourne recently in London. And the story of their franchise, I didn't know the history, and I was quite, you know. And when they told me that they was this. Everyone didn't think it'd work. You've got no chance. You can't go away from the Sydney clubs. The story's unbelievable. They're now one of the biggest clubs in the world. The owner would tell her, and I was like, this is amazing. So it can be done.
Want to move it on? We may be able to speak about Ottawa a lot more next week.
Just a quick thing though, just still on this point about homegrown players. I think the basketball franchise in Toronto is the Argonauts, isn't it?
Yeah.
They won
the Raptors.
The Raptors. Sorry, no, the Argonauts are one of the other teams. The Raptors won the NBA. And I think they only had one Canadian player playing for them.
And 2 million line.
That's right.
It's an interesting point. Danny, I want to bring up Rob Burrow and Mossy Massoy. Wow, incredible stories, sad stories as well. First of all, how were they? Because I'm sure you're in contact with them. And how inspired have you been by this story? Well, both of them?
Yeah, it's been really, really tough. Obviously, the turn of the year with the news with Rob. And I was in Australia at the time when I found out. I'd spent a bit of time with Rob previous, and he was having some sort of tests done, and he was unsure. And I found out in Australia, and I was heartbroken, to be honest with you. I didn't get out of bed for more or less for the full day, and I've been in contact with him a lot. Obviously, we had the game at Edinburgh, which was unbelievable, and the positivity of Rob is unbelievable. You know, when you're actually around him. It's really weird. You don't feel sort of upset, you know, because of the way he's handling himself, and he's just, you know, he just wants to get on with his life. He's still coaching. He's still doing his family things. He's, you know, he just wants to be as normal as possible in such a tough situation. And Mossy the same. You know, I went and saw him after the injury, and I think it was 3 or 4 days later, and he's still got that beaming smile that you see with Mossy. You know, when Mossy played, he'd smash somebody and he'd pick them up and check their hand. He was just such a genuine, lovely bloke. And to see the way both of them are attacking, they're not lying down. Although Mossy was, you know, lied flat for 6 weeks, which was torture, and then he was on his, you know, I saw him in his wheelchair, and you know, he's winning. He sees that as a win, and he's going to keep getting these little wins. And the positivity of both of them has been unbelievable, and you know, a real credit. And everybody in Rugby League's got behind them, which has been great.
You and Craig are doing a charity race day for them. April 18th, is it? First races?
Yeah, April 18th, Thirsk. Craig's put a lot of time and effort into it. Thirsk have been unbelievable. We want to try and get as many Rugby League fans along. So if you can, obviously, I think if you follow myself or Craig on Twitter, you'll be able to know how to get the tickets. A portion of the money is going to get donated back to their funds. So we'd love to see as many people there as possible.
What day of the week is that? 18th?
It's a Saturday.
Right.
It's the day after the Leeds Wigan game, I think, on Sky. So there's going to be a lot of players there. We've got all the mascots there. We've got a lot of games there. He's just said, Dan, the donation goes to the players at a proportion. We've also got 1,000 people dining, which a proportion of that goes. We've also got a trainer called Filmmaking, and you were there yesterday, Matthew, and the owners, Wendy, have kindly said if any of the horses win the prize money, will be donated to the lads. So we're all going to be cheering them. I'm hoping there's loads of Rugby League fans, and we can have a good day on the lash and get a couple of quid earned.
Yeah, and you're doing a bike ride, Danny.
I am, yes. Yeah, it was interesting. I'm actually part of Mossy's fundraising foundation, and I went to the RFL, went to Rugby League Cares to get some prizes for Moss, and signed up to a 500-mile bike ride. So yeah, that'll be interesting, but looking forward to it.
Great. That's all we've got time for, gents. That has absolutely flown by. A big thank you to all of you for coming. We'll be back next week for another edition, but for now, goodbye.